Okay, here I am with Eben Pagan, and we have painfully been hanging out with each other for about 2 days now.
Yeah.
So this needs to be made up with whatever conversation we have on video here.
Excellent.
So, how are you doing?
Good. Yeah, good. Generally good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. So, all right, look, we have to pretend just for a moment that we're serious. And here's the deal. I want to talk with you about business, about time, about overwhelm, about the future and where you see it going, and that sort of stuff. We just had a meeting yesterday with some of the top marketing minds, probably in the world.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool. And both of us have a deep understanding of marketing, amongst many other things. I mean, I'm very interested in the field of addiction and how to help people with it. I tell a lot of my own story, and of course you have a big background. So for people that don't know who you are, how would you describe modern day Eben Pagan, the past and current?
Let's see. So I'll just start kind of in the business front, maybe. I'm a child of hippie parents who dropped out of society and moved to the backwoods of Oregon when I was a little kid at 2 or 3 years old. So I kind of grew up in that reality, and then in my 20s I was a long-haired rock and roll guitar player, and that didn't work out for me, so I decided I wanted to be successful, so I got a real estate license. That didn't work out for me very well, but when I was doing real estate I realized that I needed to get clients, so I found sales and marketing, and I started listening to tapes and back in the day, and reading books about sales and marketing. And when I finally realized that you could take a message and broadcast it out into the world and then get people to come and buy stuff from you, it was a game changer, like it was for you and
totally.
for a lot of us. And then I went through a phase in my late 20s where I was socially awkward and I didn't have any success with women and dating, so I went and made friends with a bunch of guys who were really successful at meeting women, and learned how to do that, got an amazing girlfriend, then wrote a book of dating advice and took my marketing knowledge and my dating advice and learned internet marketing, and our mutual friend Dean Jackson showed me some great stuff he was doing, and I built a business called Double Your Dating, built a really successful company, taught a lot of relationship and dating advice to men and women, and then as I built that business and became successful in business, because I'm a learner and I, like you, like to learn about a lot of different areas. As I was building the business, people were asking me, how are you doing that? I showed them. That went on to me starting to teach business and entrepreneurship and time management and productivity. Started investing in technology companies about, 7 or 8, 9 years ago as well. So I've done maybe 5 or 6 of those. Got married, have a little daughter now, and putting a lot of my attention onto learning about parenting, and that's helping me go back and revision all the things I learned about dating and the things that happened with my own family, and so looking at the future a lot nowadays. I don't know, that's a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So for me, of course, I'm still doing my whole thing with trying to help entrepreneurs, become better versions of themselves. Heavy emphasis on marketing and influence, and using my marketing skills to now deliver, hopefully, some of the best solutions and ways of understanding, thinking about, and treating addictions. And that's become a very interesting, complicated, exciting sort of journey, because I am meeting a lot of people in pain, but I'm also meeting a lot of people and learning a lot about how to get people out of it, and looking at my own life and how many of the years that had I known what I'm learning now would have made a big enough difference in being able to maybe help people shave a few years, or in some cases a few decades, off of the learning curve to get to a better place. So out of all the different interviews that we've done, and we've done quite a few, and you've been at my events, I've been to your events, and we always share typically to rooms of entrepreneurs, sometimes just men and women just wanting to do better. You're a huge student of the world. I mean, you
whatever I can find.
Yeah, you read a lot of stuff. I mean, you do read a lot of stuff, and you observe a lot of stuff, and you have really unique insights. What are the things that cause a person? I'm going to use words like successful, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
What are the things that really cause people to have success and failure in business? I mean, what causes the failures? What causes the successes from your experience? Because you've literally, I mean, millions of people have read, listened, studied stuff that you've put out there, and you've read probably, I'm sure, in the thousands of books, articles, videos, you name it.
Yeah. Well, the way I look at it right now, I kind of divide success. You said success in business, but the way I think of it is there's kind of success for yourself, and then there's success for your relationships, you know, your family, your friendships, your community. So and these are two different things, and one of them is about doing things for you to make you strong, you healthy, you energetic, you happy, you growing, you actualized, you have meaning and purpose in life, and you success physically. Money, live where you want to live, have the lifestyle you want to live, not have any hassles in your life. That's kind of, you know, individual or personal success. And then, you know, social success, having relationships that really work, having, you know, good bonds with people, good long-term friendships where you feel like you support each other, where you know, if you needed the person and they needed you, feeling like you're part of a community that is stable and that that takes care of the people that are within it.
Right.
And to do that, in a lot of senses, you have to kind of put your own needs aside, and you give to your family, or you give to your friends, or you give to that community. And I think that real success, like I would call capital S success, is where you balance those two things, where you take and you get and you kind of create, and then you also give, and you're kind of generous. And if you get those two things in balance, which is more art, you know, than science. If you get those two things in balance, you can have, you know, more fulfillment and more joy and more happiness, I think. Now, do you want me to talk individual?
Yes, yeah, because I mean, here's the thing. There's most of the business stuff is viewing successful people from either fame, materialistic aspects, how much money they have, and there's a real sense of contribution where you can, I am a big fan of whatever you want as long as it doesn't hurt somebody, and preferably it really helps others. You know, pursue it, achieve it, get it, go after it, don't feel bad about it. At the same time, not all money's created equal, and there are trade-offs that people will make in order to, you know, success is literally waking up and feeling excited about what you're doing, feeling proud, knowing that, you know, I mean, I've always loved the saying, you know, if you think money can't buy happiness, you haven't given enough of it away, because you can make a lot of people happy with things that you can do that they don't have, resources, they've not, you know, something happened to them, they, you know, lost their health or something, and you're able to step in, and in some cases, I mean, that brings me in a tremendous amount of joy when I'm able to do those things. And I think anyone watching feels the same way, you know, wanting to take care of, you know, there's many people, you know, they're barely sustaining, you know, paying their bills and surviving from a financial standpoint, and then they have their parents, and when their parents get to, and so when you're able to have that level of success, that's different than I bought a Lamborghini. You know, I mean, it's a much different sort of thing. So talk about it as deeply as you want.
Yeah, a question that I ask myself, and I've been asking myself for years, is what is value? Like, what does the word value actually mean? And when you get down to it, each of us has a different way that we value things, and a different way that we get value from things. And if you take a more like a triune brain model, there's like physical, bodily senses, and like physical pleasure, the kind of pleasure you get from eating food, or from having sex, or from, you know, being in a hot tub, or from exercising, or, you know, being in the sun, or doing something that physically feels good. And then there's more of the emotional, like what your emotions are, whether you're feeling happy or feeling joy or gratitude or compassion, or some of the more elevated kind of emotions. And then there's mental, you know, again, like having meaning and purpose and learning things and growing conceptually and having the world make more sense. And these are different things, but they're all part of one complex of happiness, I think, is to have as much of that growth and that pleasure and joy as you can. And you mentioned a great thing, to be as successful as you can without hurting another person, or without you know, necessarily making someone else pay for it, in a sense. And I think a lot of us that that are interested in success and really studying it. A lot of us come from backgrounds where we were poor, or where we had less than other people, or where we felt afraid, like something bad was going to happen. And so there's a lot of fear that drives the creation of a lot of success. But there's also, in a lot of cases, I mean, this is sometimes cultures and religions and families and things, they make it wrong when you're a child to take what you want. You know, so you're 3 and you're grabbing the cookie, and someone's not just saying, we can't have cookies right now. They're saying you're bad for having taken that cookie, or
right.
you're bad for having grabbed that thing. And so I think it's really important for us to be able to go through a phase of our lives as humans, as we're growing, where we can take what we want without guilt and without shame.
Yeah.
To be able to just purely take what we want and to have that be okay. And then later, when we get to the age where we can start understanding, wait, taking that thing for yourself, you just took someone else's thing, and they're going to feel bad because of that, and you can understand why that is. That's when I think it's more appropriate to have, maybe an adult or a parent or a culture start teaching you about guilt and shame and so forth. But a lot of us got guilted and shamed and manipulated when we were so young. So then you kind of get this obsessiveness about it. And a lot of us, and I know probably you and me and a lot of our friends, when we first started having success, there's this like, I got to get as much of this as I can, because I might not be okay, there might not be any later. And so, and I say this because I really believe that people should go through a phase of their life where they make themselves very successful. I think every person should go through a phase where they essentially focus on themselves, develop themselves into their highest potential, develop themselves into be able to create lots of value and get lots of value in return, produce value for others in the world, and make money and get success and learn all of those things. But I give that little kind of that intro to it, or that frame, because we have to remember not to let our shadow or our demons from the past control us and have us believe that that's going to be the whole game. If you're gonna come into a phase of your life where it's like success time, maybe it's a decade, or some phase of your life, or maybe 20 years or something. Don't forget the relationship and the family and the community. Maybe you go 80%, but you make sure and keep in mind other people and stay in relationship to other people, and make sure you're doing things that are kind of ecologically and socially sustainable. Because if you get too far off in this, just get for yourself and get more money and more success and more sex and more power and more of these kinds of things, you go through that cycle you were talking about earlier, where you have another big win in business, or you have another big success in your life, but then you go through that despair moment, and you feel empty even though you got the success, and then you got to go get a bigger success, and then before you know it, people don't like you, or socially your family's falling apart, or you find yourself now not feeling good about what you do. So success, all for it. I think all of us need to go through life and go through a phase where we learn all the success principles, and we learn the ways to do it, and we learn to create success for ourselves without having a lot of guilt and shame. Doing it in a way, of course, where we're not harming other people, but we're really learning how success and how generation works. And then, of course, I think we also need to go through a key phase of our life, maybe it's first for some people, where we create social and community success,
right.
And we learn those skills as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I sit and think about what you're saying here, and I think the what you get versus the how you get it are two different things, and I think the how one gets it is, from an integrity standpoint, from a long-term sustainable satisfaction standpoint, is more important than the what, because there are many ways to just go out and get money. And some people are extremely skilled at amassing tons of it while simultaneously leaving lots of destruction, a lot of shrapnel in people's asses, lots of reputation trade-offs, lots of either never developed relationships or wrecked relationships, and it's real easy these days to just show pieces of that life and hide the dark parts too. When I sit and look at Facebook, I sit and look at some of my friends who's that will do videos on culture, or they'll do videos on anything that gives a piece of what life is like and how inaccurate a lot of it really is. I mean, I always say to people too, it's like, remember how people used to say the media is bullshit, but then we have this whole thing called social media? Does that mean like social media? You know, and it's amazing. I was doing yoga today at my house with Trent Shelton, who's a former NFL player and has millions of people that follow him online, and he started FaceTiming like towards the end of us doing yoga, and I mean thousands of people. Last time I looked, it was like 54,000 people had watched the video. A couple hours after we'd done it, and I said to him, I go, how amazing that we can just broadcast this to so many people, and we could say cool things, and we can inspire people. That's neat, and at the same time, you can broadcast things that you say you do, things that you say you are, that have no bearing on reality. Yeah. And so, it's not the tools, it's how the tools are used. It's debate with others about marketing. People like marketing is bad. These marketers, these advertisers, the marketing industry. And I'm like, I don't even think you could call marketing like an industry. It's like saying oxygen is an industry. I mean, it's just everywhere. Marketing is used not only to sell products and services, but it's getting dates. It's used for influencing everything. And so it's just one of those things that you do. Business and work is just one of those things. So the whole concept of work, I got a career, I've got a job, I've got to go to work, and different work produces different results. Some people love their work, they get up every day, they're excited about it. Others have their moments where it's enjoyable, but it's obsessive or it's difficult. And being an entrepreneur, some days it's going to war. I mean, it's just, you don't know what the hell you're doing. And I've always liked the analogy, some days it's like driving a car, hurling down the freeway at 80 miles an hour, and you got to change the tire. And I mean, and you just got to do it, because you can't make, you just can't stop. You got payroll, especially if you build a much bigger company. So there's levels of responsibility, but the whole notion of work and what work produces for you, for your family, for your mind, for your body, for your bank account. How would you even define what work is? I mean, it sounds like a stupid, simple question, but a career, I've got a career, I've got this work, because people that are producing anything are going to engage in work. And so to make work better, I mean, people come to guys like me and you because they want to do better in business. They want to be, they want to make work better, but just how do you think about it? So if you have access to books or trainings or knowledge or techniques or strategies or processes or all of the buzzwords that are used, best practices, and how do you interact with it? What is it?
I've got an idealistic vision, for this, where I really feel like everyone should love what they do. Everyone should love the work that they do. And I realize,
and if they don't,
well, I'm saying I realize that's idealistic.
Yeah.
That's not perfectly realistic. But I just want to start at that end, because I'm going to go backwards just a little bit here. But I feel like everyone should love what they do, and because of the internet, and because we don't live in a village somewhere and there's 100 people that live there, and there are only a few things that we need to do there, and most people work in growing the food, and then a few people work in like the blacksmiths, whatever. There's not many options. So if like your only choice is to, grow corn or work at the blacksmith, there's not as many options to love what you do. But now with the internet and with all the different types of roles and the knowledge society we live in, and you can find the people that you can work for virtually around the world, I'm getting closer to believing like, we're in a place where everyone could love what they do. So that's the end of it. But kind of going back to the other reality here, work used to be go find food. A million years ago, or you'd wake up and you were hungry, you got to go find some food, and that was going and foraging, or maybe hunting, or trying to chase down an animal, and it was a different time. And so work had a more direct result. Like you'd go forage, and you'd find like a root, and you'd eat it, or you'd go hunt an animal, and you'd eat right there. And fast forward to today, and I mean, let's say that you have a business, and you go to work at your business and you do whatever you do there, and you invest some money and some time, and maybe you run some ads and you get some people that come and they get on your list, and then you follow up with them, and then you go make some products. And it might be from when you do some work until you get the reward in terms of money, that might be 3 months, or it might be 6 months, or who knows.
Right.
If you have a job, it might be 2 weeks or a month, or if you're self-employed, maybe a few months. That whole instant gratification, like I'm going to go out and work and then I'm going to get something back for it, which is intuitive for a human and for animals, that's kind of broken down. And so I think we've forgotten, for one, that work is about getting results that we want in life. We think more like, okay, I have to do something, and then that's to get money. And then we think money is the end, and then we also know we can take some money and buy some things. So we've become very disconnected from this. And I think we've got to put it all back together and start thinking more from like an idealistic design perspective of, what is the life that I want? What do I want to be doing with my time? What energizes me? What am I good at? Like what are my gifts? What kind of personality was I born with? What kinds of things am I attracted? What's my talent? And I think we've got to go try a bunch of things out in our lives, and we have to try really diverse things. We have to try some things that are, again, more like physical and practical and pragmatic, or where we're building things or fixing things. And we've got to try things that are more emotional and social. And we've got to try things that are more intellectual and find combinations of those until we, kind of home in and go, oh wow, there's this whole area of study where people are doing this little niche or this little vertical of something over here, and that's my calling. Like that's what I'm actually supposed to be doing.
Right.
And then when we find that, we need to find a way to make that so that it also pays us back. Because a lot of people say, well, I'm made to be a dancer. Like that's what I was made to do. But it turns out that, for every one dancer that makes enough money to, support themselves in life, there are probably like 275 that feel like it's their purpose to be a dancer. And so we have to find something that's also pragmatic. But work is essentially expending energy in order to get a result that we want. And I think we've gotten confused. I think we've gotten really confused in that we could, if we know ourselves better and we learn some skills and we find the right environment and we find the right kind of thing that we could do, so many more of us could love what we do.
So you said expending energy to get a result that we want. Yeah. And the more that we get to know ourselves. So let's just use that as a jumping off point. So I believe it was Socrates that said, an unexamined life is not worth living.
Yeah.
And I've thought of the reverse, an unlived life is not worth examining. And you say, get to know yourself.
Yeah.
Well, how in the hell does someone just get to know themselves? I mean, I constantly am thinking, who am I? What do I want? What matters? What makes sense? And the whole analysis, and I think a lot of time can be wasted in these mental games of trying to figure out some things that maybe just, you figure them out when you quit trying to figure them out. It's, when self-help is no longer helping, when self-help actually becomes a problem. And when I say self-help, I talk about it in regards of like being a seminar junkie, trying to read everything, trying to figure something out versus just living, because I can't imagine some of the dark sides of social media is how many people's lives they quit living because they're observing other people live life that isn't really the way they live. It's just what is projected, and how it's interpreted. So
yeah, it's tragic. A life that looks like it would be great to live, but actually isn't even that great to live. So they're like envying something that isn't even that.
It's not even real. Yeah, and I say this from this context is, ever since I launched the Artists for Addicts platform, and I've been having so many people reaching out to me, and it's just going to get more and more as the weeks go by. Yeah. All of the people that are being reached is with the stuff that I'm doing, just trying to put out what I think to be helpful, useful information about the causes of addiction, the treatment of addiction, is people that are really out of control and really miserable, but then they are building up, they're addicted to this image management of portraying a life that they don't really live. And one of the things is saying, you got to just stop that shit, because the more you put that representation that really isn't you out there to the world, you know, Instagram posts, Snapchat things, Facebook, you know, all these different things to try to make your life look so cool, but you're doing drugs, you're acting out sexually in an obsessive way, you're gambling money away, you cannot stop, you know, working because you're this compulsivity. You know, if you have to live up to this persona and the persona is imprisoning you, that's sort of a difficult thing. So one, it's about, you know, to what ends does one go, and what have you learned that has been an utter waste of time, and what have you done that has been really useful, that you could legitimately and with confidence say, this is a way that I think about this. This is a way that I approach this. Because I know, I mean, you out of all people have done a tremendous amount of work, expending energy to, you know, figure things out. And I think you've made some, you know, incredible insights.
Yeah, you asked a couple of things. So how do you get to know yourself?
Yep.
You know, how do you figure these things out? We're also talking about kind of the social media. I went to a doctor's office recently, and he had one of those security cameras, you know, the big industrial strength looking ones, and it was in the office, like pointing into the office. And on the front, it was holding a selfie stick, and it had a cell phone on the front of it, like it was taking a picture of itself.
Oh, that's funny.
It was really nice, okay? And I saw an article I read, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or something, about this woman who she said she took one of the big, super famous Instagram stars, one of the Jenner girls, and she followed her, and she tried to follow this girl's life and do exactly what she did. So if she would color her hair like all blue, she would go and like get her hair colored blue. And if she had different outfits or was going, and she was like just saying, okay, what does it look like to keep up with all these details? And she was exhausted by the end because the whole thing was a performance.
Right.
It's kind of like, it's one thing to live your life, but it's another thing to, like if like, let's say you're in Lion King or something, you're one of the performers there, you got to go and get ready and get your costume on and do all this stuff in order to give the performance. And at the end of the day, unless you're one of the very, very, very few people that got lucky enough to, for whatever reason, be on the show, on the stage that we like to watch, that stuff's actually all counterproductive, because it wastes so much of your time to try that, to get that extra little bit of you know, kind of look good. Another thing too is, I mean, the people that we see on TV and on Instagram and whatever, they tend to have personalities that are incredibly narcissistic. And I don't say that in like a judgmental way. I say it in the sense of they tend to really enjoy getting a lot of attention, and they like doing that extra little bit to get the extra bit of attention. That's kind of what they're good at, if that makes sense. They're good at doing that thing. And so if you're not good at doing that extra stuff in order to get a lot of attention, then trying to copy someone who's really good at it is kind of like, you know, being a short person trying to play basketball against someone that's 7 feet tall and who loves to play it. You're never gonna win that game, so don't, you know what I mean? Don't try that one.
And it's super exhausting along the way.
Totally, exactly. So then back to, how do you find what you are good at? Like what is your talent? And I go back and forth with some of my friends, you know, is talent inborn? Are you talented when you're born, or is it something that's developed? Is personality inborn? And I think that, generally speaking, the kind of nature versus nurture, it's about 50-50. About 50% you're kind of born with whatever it is, and 50% is you learn it from your family and your culture and your peers and your, you know, your social experiences. But both of them are extremely influential, right? Extremely influential. So you have to take both of them into account. And if you talk to parents who have kids, right, this is a pretty standard story. We had one child, and you know, we just thought, okay, this is the way kids are. And then we had another child, and they were totally different. And so they get to see the difference in terms of inborn, you know, like innate personality kind of thing. And then, of course, you can see two people go through a similar experience and, you know, come out the other side, and you know, one of them goes to a concentration camp and, you know, says it was the worst experience, and then you get Viktor Frankl goes to a concentration camp and comes out and he used it as this self-development thing, and invents a whole psychotherapy or psychology, around it. You got what you got in terms of your genes. You got what you got in terms of your personality, your inborn personality and your talents and so forth. I think the game is figuring out what are those things, and then where would those be useful in reality, so that I can be myself more, or I can be my greatest self, or I can develop into more of what I already am, or reach my potential, actualize my potential. And in order to do that, I think you got to try a bunch of things. I think you have to go out into life and you have to have novel experiences with different types of people. And one of the challenges here is that cultures and subcultures, all the way down to a family, which is a little subculture, whether it be religious or whether it be a regional culture or whether it be a national culture or a whole, culture of a whole hemisphere, most cultures, they tend to be pretty exclusionist, even if they think that they're more open. Mm-hmm. If you really look into it, what they're trying to do is either keep you from going and experiencing other cultures or get other people to come be part of theirs. Great. A culture can't survive by saying, leave our culture and go get other cultural influences.
Right.
No culture would survive that way. And so this creates kind of xenophobia, or like being afraid of other things, but you got to go try it. You got to go try it out. Robert Anton Wilson, he's kind of extreme in this way, but he says, whoever you think is a wacko, whoever you think are the crazy people, go live their life. Go get into that reality for a second. Like if you're a super liberal, animal loving, whatever, go read hunting magazines and go hang out with some hunters. Or if you're a conservative religious person, go hang out with some, wacko, ecology hippie cult that, takes drugs or something like that. It's like, get out of your comfort zone and go see another way that people do things. Go to other countries, go to other businesses, get out a little bit and just go there and see what they're like. And for the most part, what you're going to find if you go immerse yourself in it is you're going to realize, oh, these are humans that have a different way, they've learned a different way of doing things to get different results, and they actually work really well for what they're up to. And yeah, they've got some wackiness, maybe they're a little bit too extreme in some area. And I'm not saying to go join a terrorist organization, or you know what I'm saying? You don't want to go all the way, but you find, oh, these are people, and they have a different set of values, or they have different personality types, but they're actually pretty cool, and they're up to their own thing here. And I think that's how you find this stuff. You get it reflected. Sometimes people say Evan, do you believe in psychics? Somebody was just asking us that yesterday or the day before. Someone was saying Evan, you got to go to my psychic, Okay, some people think psychics are wacky. Where could a psychic, and some people are really into astrology and psychics and tarot cards and things like this, how could those things be useful? Well, they can be really useful because we can't see ourselves. Just like your eye can't come out and look at itself, we can't see ourselves, and one way that we see ourselves is in reflections. Mm-hmm. It's just like if you're a dancer, you need a mirror so you know what you look like, and you practice so that when you come back out here and dance, you look good, and you know you look good because you looked at yourself in the mirror. Things like this, even things that are quote unquote wacky, like psychics and tarot cards and astrology, if you go and you're with someone that is intelligent and has a lot of different modalities, listening to them say things about you, even if 50% of them are right, half the time you're going to go, wow, yeah, that pattern is true about me, or that particular mythological thing, and it'll give you insight just because you got a reflection. Now, I think there's better ways that you can go than this in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
But go check out some personality systems. Go read about the Myers-Briggs. Go take a couple of tests online. Take a Colby test. Go read about the way that personality is sliced and diced, and try some of these things on and say, okay, what's my type? And talk to other people about theirs. Try a lot of things out, and you'll find, wow, there's something out there that I never would have guessed, where I can be myself. It kind of calls on my natural talents. It draws out the best in me. And there are other wackos like me there. There are other crazy people.
Yeah, no, and they'll find your Evan Pagan, and that would be a really bizarre sort of, like an acid trip almost. Well, let's talk about energy management, and I don't just mean like from a physical sense, but just like a mental sense, because you've done a lot of programs on, one of your programs, Wake Up Productive, and you've done a lot of ways to accelerate, advance your ability to get things done, gain clarity, be more persuasive. So you've delved a lot into that world. And if anyone, what are the things that you have found that, for the most part, an entrepreneur that has ambition and drive, I mean, as stupid as that sounds, let's use that as the caveat. If you don't have any ambition and drive, you know, you must gain that if you're going to, like, because if I give a strategy to someone that is driven to build their business, and that strategy would work if it was used, if I give that to someone that has ambition, they can do something with it. If I give that tool to somebody that does not, they, in many cases, will blame the tool versus blaming themselves, because they're like, well, this didn't work. Well, it does work when it's used, and if it's not used, it does not work. So with that being said, I'm going to just assume, which is always dangerous, but I'm going to assume that the person listening or watching us right now is doing that because there's enough in them to say, yeah, I want to learn something that I can then use to gain perspective, get a result, that sort of stuff. So what could you share that if the person listening or watching that does have ambition, if they did it, it would improve their life in anything you want to talk about, from their sleep to their income, to their marketing, to their relationships, whatever, because you've studied a lot.
Great. So I'll talk to that person that has the, what you're saying, ambition and kind of drive. Also, if someone doesn't, I'll make distinctions here. I'll talk to that. I also want to make sure and include the other type of folk, because I've been learning lately that a lot of people, some people, and it's actually kind of the minority, have this ambition drive that you're talking about. There are a lot of folks who they need to be around one of those type of people, and then that's what activates them.
Gotcha.
And neither is better or worse. They kind of can collaborate, but you and I do work around a lot of the more drive, you know, ambition kind of people. So I just want to say that. And then as you were talking, I was thinking about Wyatt Woodsmall, who's a mentor of mine, and he taught me the distinction between a motive and motivation.
Okay.
So motive is that thing that you're going for, that thing you're moving either toward or away from, right? And then the motivation is the thing inside, is the feeling. There's like the inner game and then the outer game. So to feel motivated, you usually need a motive, right? And when you have a motive, that's what kind of helps you feel motivated. And there are a lot of models around this. David McClelland, he broke down motivation into power, affiliation, and achievement. And we either move toward or away. So we either move toward success or away from failure. We move toward love and affection and approval or away from rejection. We move toward having power and influence, and we move away from loss of significance. And when you figure out which one of those you are, you can start using that to motivate yourself more. So I think you need to know what your motive is. And if you don't know what your motive is, it's hard to get yourself motivated.
Right.
You know, a lot of people
Makes
talk
sense.
about the why, you know, and there's this whole notion of if you have a big enough why. And this, I think, is there's a finer distinction there of what the why is. So looking into motivation is important here. You talked about energy management.
Right.
So when we're talking about productivity and time management and just getting more things done, there are different strategies for this. Some people are machines. They wake up and they just get shit done. They can't stop getting lots of stuff done. Now this is the tiny minority of humans. And when we look at those people, we all just they make us feel bad because they're just getting, they're the CEO of a rocket company and the coolest car company in the world, like each one is their spare time or something,
Right.
and like, holy shit, like how does that person, do all this stuff? And some people, they're just kind of that way. I remember reading an article with Elon Musk's mom, and she was saying like, oh yeah, my kid's this, and then, and she's like, Elon, I don't know what happened with him. Like I don't know what happened,
Right.
And so you get one of those once in a while.
Do you think he's an alien?
No, he could be the first instance of AI, but we don't know.
I mean, I've met him twice. He's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so basically, if you're not one of these, like, wake up and just are, productive, like, all by yourself, you have to figure out how to make yourself be that way. You got to figure out how to program yourself or put habits in place and kind of ritualize it, kind of.
Right.
Anyway, so the ideas for this, I've learned a lot of this stuff from other kind of masters here. I think the first one that made a really big impact on me was Peter Drucker in The Effective Executive. And right in there, he says, work in focused blocks of uninterrupted time on single focus projects, minimum a couple of hours, you know, and like ideally longer than that. Because if you stop and start things, it's very unproductive. You know, this idea that if you get interrupted while you're doing something, like a focus project that takes a while to do, if you get interrupted and then you come back to that project and you start again on the project, from when you start again, it takes about 20 minutes just to get to where you were when you got interrupted, because you've got to get back up to speed and get your mind back up there. So if you get, on average, if you get interrupted every 20 minutes, there's no way to get anything done. So this idea of focused blocks, uninterrupted time. So that was really influential to me, because that's not intuitive, you know. And then a lot of this stuff around multitasking, you know, a lot of people say I'm a multitasker, but that's super inefficient. I saw an article recently that said on average a human has a shorter attention span than a goldfish. Did you see that one? Yes. The 8-second goldfish attention span or whatever. So, you know, so we're dealing with all that kind of stuff. I was also very influenced by Jim Loehr and Tony Schwartz and this idea of in order to manage your energy, you move from managing actions to creating habits. And so this is kind of a profound insight of we only get a little bit of willpower, and there's a lot of research that shows that we get kind of a little bit of willpower and we burn it up. And a lot of the burning up of the willpower is in internal conflict. So we're all in a lot of internal conflict for the most part. Most of us are. So we've got this cognitive dissonance, and we've got these things that we're worried about. And you know, as you grow up and become more of an adult, there are more and more things pulling on your attention and time, and kind of conflicting values that you have. And I mean, this idea that we were talking about earlier of like being selfish or generous, and you've got to like make the decision. Am I going to do for other here? Am I going to do for self? So we burn a lot of our willpower in there trying to make decisions, because decisions are one of the biggest energy drains that we have. Right? Making decisions is extremely draining on us. So what do? How do you get yourself to do another thing? Because you can't just keep trying to will yourself into it. That doesn't work. And we're already creatures of habit. And so the idea is to create a ritual that is a specific set of steps that will put a new habit into your life, and then every day for 30 days do that at the exact same time of day. And if you do that same thing, then you ritualize it, you actually put it into yourself as a habit. That's great energy management, I think. Focus blocks of uninterrupted time, and then create rituals and use your willpower to do the ritual over and over until it's a habit.
So when it comes to habits and conditioning, it is just not an intellectual choice for people to just say, oh, I'm gonna, if you're so revved up, I mean, if I could stand up, which I'm not going to, I could stand up, but if I was gonna run across the room, and as fast as I couldn't just stop. You know, I mean, there's sort of like a body in motion tends to stay in motion, a frenetic person tends to stay frenetic. So there's a period where you actually have to recondition yourself, where you have to. Now, certain things can just be, I mean, what's that other Peter Drucker quote? If someone tells me what they value, I might believe them, but show me your calendar and your bank account, and I'll show you what you value. Mm-hmm. So based on people saying, oh, I want this, I want that, well, show me your calendar, show me your bank account, and we'll actually see if you really value success and making money, if it's that sort of thing. So what are your thoughts about just building rituals that work? Because you have studied and learned and identified, and I've talked to numerous people about product. I mean, I can't imagine how many, hundreds of hours that I have spent in the study and the research of these sort of things, and even how difficult it is to change, getting your, you trying to be funny here? Okay. If you're going to be funny, just try to be funny. So, getting your body to do the things your mouth is saying it's going to do are two different things. So how does one do that?
I mean, in a sense, the most powerful force for a human being is their social circle, their social group, right? We were all hearing this research that if you kind of average out the people that are closest to you, you're that person. You take the 5 people closest to you, that's your level of self-esteem and health and income and all that kind of thing. In a certain way, the self-sculpting or the self-development game, it reaches, I think, its pinnacle when you figure out where you want to go in a particular line or developmental kind of vector of your life, whether that be your physical health or emotionally how you want to feel, or your relationships or your success or money or whatever it is, where you want to live, how you want to live. Figure out that one thing and then go and add a social influence to your life who already has that in their life. That's the formula, right? So if I'm bad at marketing, I don't know marketing, I don't know how to get customers, I could go read books, and that works. I can get that knowledge, but it's nothing like coming and sitting down like with you, for example. We had lunch with, remember we had lunch with that woman, what, a month ago or something in LA. We were both at a conference.
Oh,
we
yes,
had lunch with your friend. We sat down with her. She said, here's this whole thing. She really didn't understand marketing, kind of at all. We wound up having lunch with her for maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah.
We gave her a bunch of feedback. And by the end of it, it's not just that she got what to do, because she did. We gave her some ideas on what to do, but we're so far to the next level in our own marketing development, our own lives. We're saying it's what we're communicating, what our kind of body language and the cultural little milieu that was set up there is communicating is, it is totally normal to have the kind of success that you're trying to get here. It's not that big of a deal. Just go do the things you need to do, and then, you know, can I get some more water? Like,
right.
And that transmission is what you need to get for yourself when you're trying to achieve something, because you read it in a book and it's like, I don't know, this person could have just written that down because they wanted to, you know, whatever, or it's abstract, or maybe it's not taught the way that you want. But when you go watch another human being do something and you go, oh, you can do this. Dan Kennedy, I heard him talking, and he said this great thing. He said, I think we should have National Bring a Poor Person to Work Day. And I thought that was really a great insight, so that, you know, someone that doesn't do as well financially could come to work for a day with someone that does and watch what they do, not to learn what they do, but to just realize, I could do this, just to raise their esteem and like what's possible. So the social influence is such a big deal, because the ritualization, so there's like focus blocks of time, there's the ritualization and the habit building, which is, you know, very self-empowering and so forth, but it's not, these are nothing like adding social influences to your life. If you're saying like, well, I want to go work out every day, and you know, you could do these other things and it's great. You could focus on that block of time, you could create the ritual, you could set it up, you could start doing it. But man, make friends with 2 or 3 people who work out every day and have been doing it for 10 years, and who that's an absolute rock solid cornerstone of their life. If you don't do that, something's wrong with your life. And you go make friends with them, you start hanging out with them, you figure out other ways to add value to each other's lives. But being around them, you're going to start going to the gym every day, not because you ritualized it or you had willpower, but because there's freaking no choice, you know?
That is a huge insight. I mean, now, because thinking back at that lunch, because we talked to her yesterday, and she said, that thing you talked to me about worked, and she talked about the success she had, and it was like a game changer for me, blah, blah, blah. And that also gave me some insight as to what happens with Genius Network, you know, because I'm now running the highest level marketing group in the world, and it's an expensive group. You know, people pay $25,000 for Genius Network, they pay $100,000 a year for Genius X, and it's the being around all of and there are people that show up there that are really successful, and I've heard this dozens of times. You know, when I came to my first meeting, I felt like, you know, in my world, I'm this really, you know, successful person. I came here and I feel like this, and I always think that's a funny statement, because it's like, no, you're a total badass. But, and then once they come to a few meetings, they realize, oh, you know, this is kind of like a family. I feel comfortable around these people. And so it's given me a deeper understanding of what I've actually created without even thinking about it that way. Because, you know, people will be like, well, you know, I already got too many ideas, or I don't have time. You know, it's not about that at all. It's about the relationships. It's about, you know, I always say that what I do in Genius Network, all of the great content, the 10-minute talks, the $250,000 ideas, all this thing that's structured around sell people what they want, give them what they need. They usually want more money, but when they show up there, we talk a lot about, you know, workaholism. We talk a lot about hiring amazing people. We talk about getting in much better physical shape. You know, taking free days, you know, all of these things that aren't is appealing initially as I want to have a lot more money. And so what happens though is I come there and we put on as good of curating a amazing discussion around important issues as we can. But I always say that the speeches, the talks, those are just excuses for me to bring amazing people together so they can meet each other. Because once they meet each other, all kinds of stuff happen. And so you gave me an idea, because right now, I do my best not to do consulting. And I'm not saying that jokingly. I make more money when I do a Genius Network meeting than I do, and so I'm an expensive consultant. I'm 25 grand for half a day. If someone wants a whole day, it's 50 grand. And that's a lot of money. And I have it that way because, for one, I'm not willing to do consulting for less than that. And secondly, it's worth it if it's the right sort of person. But I try to direct people. But here's what I want to put out there as a test, at least people that listen here. I love that idea of come to work. And if anyone wants to come to work with me, and I'm not like, I'm going to spend the whole day with you, but just wants to mirror and see the environment and see what I do. I mean, I'm going to think this through, but I'm just throwing it out there because I was like, this is a great idea. And
I could come and I could just be making fun of you the whole time.
Yeah,
while they're watching you.
That would be great. We would get both of us at the same time, but you would pay, because I'm thinking of
They'd get more value from me.
No, but here's the thing: if someone really wants to do this, it's $5,000. But I don't want the $5,000. I want it to go to either Artists for Addicts or I want it to go to Joe Volunteer, which are two things.
Get a group of people. Do this with like 10 people.
Yeah.
Really, have a group of 10, maybe once a quarter, come and just follow you around for a day and just watch what you do.
Yeah, and I'll point out things. I mean,
watching.
Literally, but I'm not going to do it for free because I want a person at a certain level. But it's like
have them. Like I said, donate. Or like you said, donate to the thing. But watching Joe. Joe is one of the people who, I'm not totally certain of this, but I'm pretty sure, who's one of the bigger geniuses in the world who doesn't actually know what he's doing to be a genius, but if you hang out with him and you observe him doing what he does, he pulls you into it and you kind of get changed by it. I think that would be great. It would be great for you to mentor people in a group like that.
Yeah, I mean, and now that's probably not as maybe noble as to bring a poor person to work if I'm going to ask people to make a $5,000 contribution. But the point is, it'll cause me to have to figure out how to set it up and at least block some time. And I think it would be a very interesting model.
What you could do is, maybe 1 out of 3 of them or something. You could get a group of young people and just give them scholarships. And so, like maybe once a year or twice a year, just have that day be a group of 18-year-olds who are just kind of getting into their career, and they just come and.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So yes. Well, now, see, my contribution to help people like anyone is this. Putting out knowledge. That's assuming that anything you're saying is useful to people. But assuming it is, and just putting it out there, I think that in and of itself is a good contribution, because I don't need to do this. I mean, I'm doing it because it makes me feel good that it's going to help other people and stuff. If anyone likes that idea, then I would ask that you just how would I.
You can contact me.
Contact Eben. You'll pay for this,
Send
right?
me the money.
Yeah.
But go to his office, and I'll give it to the favorite charity. All right,
no, send an email to support@joepolish.com. Support@joepolish.com, and just reference that you interview with Eben and you heard this idea, and you are absolutely not like you're going to talk about it, but you will cut a check for $5,000 to joevolunteer.com. You could look at that one, or artistsforaddicts.com. You can buy art. You could buy $5,000 worth of art. We could do it that way, so you even get some art for it if you prefer that one. And so you'll get something for the money, and you'll get one hell of a interesting perspective in education. And I'll play around with that. I might do 1 or 2 of those in the next year, depending on if anyone responds to this.
If you got a group together, like a brainstorm day, almost 10 or 12 folks, you could do a brainstorm as part of it with them.
Yeah. So if you know any friends that want to do it, $5 grand a person. You can't do $5 grand and bring 10 friends. So it's like I want to be careful.
And Joe is the best. Joe's best at putting together brainstorm meetings and making meetings that you just get a tremendous amount out of. And just getting
that I will agree with. Without even being a smartass, I am really good at that. That's one thing that there's a lot of things I'm not good at, but I'm really good at that one.
He's good at that one.
So yeah. So okay. So just seeing the outside perspectives. So in terms of the word hack, gets thrown around a lot, and some days I like it, some days I don't. for this conversation, what are some shortcuts, hacks, things that you have done, learned, employ that just simply make things work better? I mean, it just allows you to, be it environments, be it be it technology, be it meditation. Is there? It could be from the totally normal to the weird. What have you done or do that just makes you more effective?
Because we're looking for leverage here. It's kind of like in investing. We want to get as much leverage as we can. And I don't mean like borrowing money. I mean we want to put something and get the biggest return. We want to get the the greatest return. And I think in life that this social influences thing is really a big deal. I'd also like to talk, I'll just put a little marker here, in collaboration. Mm-hmm. Collaboration is a really important idea for big effectiveness, so make sure I don't forget that one. Social influences. So this idea of Dunbar's number.
150.
This guy went and kind of studied primates and looked at brain sizes and social group size and figured out that we probably come from tribes or groups, social groups of about 100 to 150, that kind of range.
I think
right?
I think I'm one of the few people that can go beyond the his number, but I'm not sure.
Well, you're a primate, and your brain's you can see your cranium's a little larger there, so you're probably at like 153 or something, right?
Perhaps.
Okay, so just judging by the shape.
That's how I shave my head. Give the appearance that it's smaller.
So that I can judge better the number.
So, if I have any hair, it just looks even bigger than it. Yeah.
And so this idea is that we came from these tribes that were about this size, but now we're not. I mean, even the nuclear family is broken down. First it was the tribe, and then clans and families, and now more of us are being raised by single parents in America, and this whole thing. But we still have all that wiring, and it's still the most influential thing that we can do. And so I think of this as that, for our adult life, what it's our job to do as adults is to build that tribe in our lives, but build it intentionally, right? Sometimes I call it a tribe 2.0. Sometimes I call it a super tribe. So the idea is that maybe every quarter in your life, every 90 days, you want to find one of those people that you want to add to your tribe. And if you do it every 90 days, that's for a year. Over 25 years, you could put 100 people into your life. And so we all, these days, online, offline, whatever, we all meet lots of people. And if you follow what I said earlier, you want to go into different environments and meet different people. And when you meet people, when you meet lots of folks, once in a while, someone will just resonate, and you'll realize you're different enough from me, but yet we can meet on some things, and I can feel that there's some synergy here. You would be a great addition to the tribe that I'm putting together. Now, we're all multi-group. We all have several that we're kind of members of, so that's fine as well. Mm-hmm. But if you do that and you build a tribe full of people and connect them not only to you, but connect them to each other, you eventually create a really powerful, like attractor field, a social influence field.
That's pretty much what I've done. I mean, that's sort of my life as it relates to connecting people and developing relationships. I think it was Bill Gates that says, most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 10 years. Yeah, and so there is a lot that you can do in a handful of years. And a lot of people, where they get frustrated is they're like, what do you want to do in the next 90 days? What do you want to do in the next year? And they have these goals that there's so much that needs to be set up in order to do it, and they don't do it, and therefore they don't look at, if you were just using your example of one person every 90 days, it doesn't sound like a big thing in a year, although it could be huge. But in 10 years, in 15 years, in 5 years, it just multiplies. And someone said...
It can be a complete transformation of your life.
Well, not only can it be, it will be. It is the way. It's like the books you read, the people you meet, and the decisions that you make. A year from now is going to make up how this year is going to play out. Yesterday, during our group discussion, someone, I can't remember who said it, I think it might have been Jeff Walker, he said, who's someone that you want to go to dinner with a second time? And as simple as that statement was, I thought about, I've had dinner with a lot of people once, but during that dinner, from like the ability to connect, contribution. You said talk about collaboration. It's just, I wouldn't want to go to dinner with them a second time, because I meet a lot of people. But I sat and thought about that going, yeah, if I just sit and look at my life, who are all the people that I would want to go to dinner with over and over and over again? And it really, it really helps me think about, why do I interact with some of these people? What am I getting? A lot of people will go meet with people that they want something from, business deals or whatever, but they don't really like the person, or they don't really have a lot in common with them. So it's kind of begrudgingly, and that's just not the way that I think one enjoys living their life. And so, it's kind of, to take a chapter out of Maria Kondo's, the life-changing magic of tidying up, about physical items that, socks, does this bring me joy? The question that you ask. I think about that as it relates to people, as it relates to projects. Does this person bring me joy? Does this project, does this book bring me joy? I mean, everything that you interact with, if it doesn't, let it go. I mean, there's a lot to be said. So anything you want to say about collaboration?
Yes, thank you. So collaboration is interesting because collaboration done right creates emergence. It creates something in a different dimension that individually you could never have created. So if you take Adam Smith's pin factory, this idea of one person trying to do all of it, like draw the wire and cut it and make the pin heads and sharpen them and put the things together. If they just made pins all day individually, they can make like a little handful of pins. But whatever, 10 people that have all divided that labor up and have specialized equipment, and one of them draws the wire and one of them cuts it, and they just keep practicing it over and over, can make like whatever, 10,000 pins in a day. It's this huge, the specialization, but it's the specialization and then the reintegration that's the key. That's the power of collaboration. But collaboration, the exponential collaboration, where there's an emergent property, there's something that is 1 + 1 is 3 or 1 + 1 is 11. It happens when diverse people figure out how to respect each other's differences and do things that neither of the other could do. And it becomes like having, having two eyes is great because you get binocular vision, but having eyes and ears is a whole other thing. And you want to have collaborations where one of you is eyes and one of you is ears, and then figure out how to make those two things work together, right? And so a lot of us, we inadvertently have, this fear of other, or fear of different type of people. And I think along these lines of people that are more ambitious and, create success for self, or people that are more selfless in a real sense, like they really feel more like life comes on when they're around another and they can be part of whatever's happening for the group. That you want to find that combination of people. You want to have at least one of each of those around in different collaborations that you're doing, because that's when you're having a more ecological, or a more sustainable kind of a collaboration, where both the individuals and the group and the environment are all being considered, rather than just something where you're being with someone because they're just like you and they've got ideas just like you.
Right.
So yeah, in collaboration, that idea that we can find another person where each of us have different but complementary skills, and then each of us can do our thing, but they're tessellated and synchronized together, and they're put together in a coordinated way. That's what creates the real power. So we want to look for diverse people that are very different from us, but who we can work with. And when we find those overlaps, that's when I think the big potential is there.
Right. I love it. I love it. Well, so I guess we can't do this all day, so we should probably wrap this up.
No, it's been real.
Things that you are looking at, studying, reading, watching, anything that you recommend that is currently of big interest that you think would be really valuable for people, including if you want to give out any of the projects you're working on. I know
Sure.
you got your future website and things like that. So anything you want to recommend for people to go deeper with some of this, give it out. Holler at me, Evan.
Yeah, it's interesting that where we're at right now in culture and so forth, a lot of people are becoming aware of how important it is to work on themselves and make themselves, like self and personal development, but also relationship and family development. And the currents that are out there right now, where people are starting to become more interested in attachment theory, and people are starting to become more interested in narcissism and sociopaths and these different psychological complexes and so forth. I think it's interesting to study those and to try to really understand, not just superficially, but go deeper into the patterns of human beings and learn to get in touch with who you are and what you want and your emotions and your feelings, and learn to name your emotions as you're feeling them and bring them into the conversation, and make visions about what you want and get clear about what you want and have it be okay to have what you want. But then also to learn about empathy and rapport and relaxing what you need and being part of something else, part of something bigger than you, or part of a relationship, or learning how to support another person. We're teaching a course right now called The Virtual Coach that we're creating, where I've kind of defined coaching as supporting another person through a transition or a transformation. And I think it's a really important skill, because all of us are going through more transitions in more parts of our lives as we go through this great acceleration right now. So learning to support others and kind of give them assistance in a healthy way, not do it for them, but support them, give them the minimal support so that they do it themselves. It's another key skill. And then futurism, you mentioned the future. I've been, the last couple of years, I've been thinking a lot about the future. I'm watching a lot of trends. Things are going to be changing faster and faster and faster. And we're just getting to the point where we can see it, right? When we can see it. I mentioned yesterday when we were with the group that it's just starting to be where when you get a new device, you get a new computer or you get a new mobile device, that you get it and you say, this is better. Like, you can feel that it's better. Or you get into a new car and it's new, and you go, wow, this is better, the way that they do everything, because everything's moving so fast. So this is just the beginning. We're gonna start seeing more and more that change is happening real time. So we can see when we go use one of the technology platforms online, they've added a new feature, and then all of a sudden it's doing this whole new thing. And in order to cope with all the change that's coming, I think we have to watch it. And I think we have to watch what's happening kind of scientifically, we have to watch what's happening with technology, we have to watch what's happening with culture. And I built a website called FutureScope, and the name is, it's a telescope for the future. It allows us to look more into the future and look at the horizon.
Right.
And the idea is that 5 minutes a day, you read a few kind of summarized articles, and you get a sense of where things are going in different areas. And if you watch this every day, you just spend 5 minutes a day looking at this, you start understanding where the opportunities are going to be, how the changes are going to be in your industry. You start seeing where things are going, so that when you make your next move in your career, you decide what skills to learn next, you decide what you're going to be doing in the future. You're doing it in a way where you're aligned with where things are going. One of my biggest concerns right now is people are learning skills that are going to be obsolete, and I think we have to future-proof our lives. We have to future-proof our careers. We have to future-proof our skills. And the way we future-proof ourselves is learn things that are future-compatible. We learn skills that will be more and more valuable into the future, rather than skills that will be less and less valuable. And I think skills like marketing and entrepreneurship and some of these relationship skills, these are skills that keep getting more valuable into the future, whereas certain specialized skills, those can become less. And so I think that it's important to, again, see where things are going, and my website, futurescope.com, can help you do that.
Awesome, awesome, very good. So that is Eben Pagan in our discussion. As always, it's always fun. Now, after we're done with this, this appearance of professionalism, we can go back to making fun of each other after the camera stops recording.
But if you send Joe $5,000, you can come see all this live.
You can hang out with us.
I would come for one of those days.
Yeah, well,
I would come for
give
one
me
of
your
those
credit
days.
card and we'll get you signed up.
No, let's see if we can get a dozen people. And
yeah, no, seriously, if you're interested in that, then support at joepolish.com and reference this episode, and we'll just see how people respond to it. It might be this is a limited time offer that could be revoked at any time, because if I get a bunch of weird people that just want to cut a check, but then I'm like, oh my God, so I'll come up with some sort of criteria on how it could be incredibly useful and also help us move forward the Joe Volunteer, which is kind of like Uber for volunteers, and then Artists for Addicts, which is our platform to help change the global conversation about how people view addiction and find and share the very best forms of treatment that have efficacy to help people with what I think is one of the greatest global problems in the world that so many people struggle with. So so I hope you got some good perspective out of this. Share this with friends and family and loved ones and aliens, anyone that you think could benefit from listening to this. And thank you, sir.
Thanks, Joe.